If you keep looking at me like that, I'll tell her everything. The story opens with the kind of evening that feels harmless, laughter, background chatter, and the soft clinking of glasses that come with family dinners. The narrator, a 25-year-old man, is nervous but polite, meeting his girlfriend's family for the first time. The home is warm and softly lit, cream walls, an old record playing something jazzy and unhurried. He notices how everyone moves with casual ease. Except him. He's still finding his place. Then she enters, his girlfriend's older sister, perhaps in her early 40s. Not glamorous in a showy way, but magnetic in how composed she is. She carries a kind of quiet confidence that fills the space before she even speaks. Her voice is calm, low, slightly amused. When she smiles at him, it isn't flirtation. It's acknowledgement, as though she's already read the kind of person he is. He greets her politely, shaking her hand. It's a brief touch, yet he can't help noticing her warmth, the faint scent of her perfume, something like jasmine and cedar. She asks the kind of thoughtful questions that people his age don't get asked often. What drives him, what kind of books he reads, what makes him stay up too late. There's no judgment in her tone, only curiosity, the kind that makes him feel unexpectedly seen. Through dinner, she listens more than she speaks, occasionally laughing at her younger sister's teasing remarks. He catches himself glancing at her across the table, not out of desire but fascination. There's something grounding about her, something steady that contrasts with the lightness of everyone else. But each time their eyes meet, it feels like he's been caught doing something he shouldn't. He tries to focus on his girlfriend, her excitement, her easy jokes, but his attention drifts without permission. When the older sister reaches for the wine bottle near him, their hands almost brush. It's such a small thing, yet he feels a jolt that leaves him momentarily breathless. She notices, of course she does, and gives him the faintest smile. It's neither invitation nor rejection. It's awareness. The evening winds down, and as people start to leave, he helps carry a few dishes to the kitchen. She's there again, drying glasses, her sleeves rolled slightly up. He murmurs a polite, "Thank you for having me," and she looks at him, really looks at him, before replying softly, "It was nice to finally meet you. I can see why she likes you." Her tone is warm, but layered, too sincere to be casual, too gentle to be entirely neutral. On the drive home, her words replay in his mind. He tells himself it's nothing. She's just being kind. But somewhere deep down, he knows there was more in that look than kindness. It was recognition and perhaps the beginning of something he's not supposed to feel. That night, as he lies awake, he can still hear her laughter echoing faintly, and he realizes he's not thinking about the woman he came there for. A few weeks pass. The narrator, a 25-year-old man, tells himself the first meeting was harmless, a fleeting spark of curiosity. But when he sees her again, that quiet composure of hers pulls him in all over again. It's another small family gathering, a late Sunday brunch. Sunlight filters through tall windows, dust motes floating lazily in the air. He arrives with his girlfriend, helping carry a basket of pastries, and hears the familiar low hum of the sister's voice coming from the kitchen. Something about that sound, calm, self-assured, makes him pause before walking in. She greets him warmly, but there's something different in the air now. Neither of them can quite hide the subtle shift in awareness. She stands by the counter, sleeves rolled up, pouring coffee. Her hair is tied back this time, a few strands falling loose around her face. The scent of roasted beans mingles with her perfume, creating an intimacy he wishes he didn't feel. "Still taking your coffee black?" she asks lightly, remembering from the first dinner. He smiles. "You remember?" "I try to remember the details," she says, turning away to stir her cup. It's a simple line, yet it lands like a confession. Throughout the morning, they orbit each other in the same room, pretending indifference. She helps set the table. He passes plates. Their hands brush briefly. It's a brief contact, but it lingers. He feels her pause for a second longer than necessary before stepping aside. During the meal, conversation flows easily around them, work, vacations, casual teasing. But between them, Silence hums like static. Every time he looks up, he finds her already watching him. Not with invitation, but with quiet reproach, as though asking him silently, "Why are you doing this?" He tries to avoid looking at her. But the harder he tries, the more he notices. The graceful way she gestures when speaking, the faint lines near her eyes when she smiles, the steadiness in her posture that his girlfriend's youth doesn't quite have. It's not attraction in the usual sense, it's gravity. Something deeper, something that feels like understanding. At one point, he catches her watching him laugh at a joke. Her expression softens, almost fondly, before she quickly looks away. That small human moment rattles him more than he expects. Later, as everyone moves to the living room, his girlfriend leaves to take a call. He stays behind for a moment, finishing his drink. When he turns, the sister is there, leaning lightly against the counter, her eyes fixed on him. Her voice is calm, but precise. "You stare too long." The words hang between them. Not accusation, not teasing, just truth. He opens his mouth, searching for an excuse. A denial maybe, but finds none. The air feels thick, the silence heavier than it should be. She steps past him, her arm brushing his as she goes. "Be careful," she says quietly. "Someone might notice." And then she's gone, leaving behind only the faint scent of her perfume and the echo of his own heartbeat. It happens on an ordinary evening that should have meant nothing. His girlfriend had organized a small dinner at her sister's house. A simple family get-together, something casual. But when the night unfolds, it becomes something else entirely. The sister's home feels different at night. Quieter, more personal. The lights are dim, soft music hums from a speaker in the corner, and the faint scent of rain seeps through an open window. Everything feels too intimate for what it is. He arrives with his girlfriend, both of them cheerful from the drive. The sister greets them at the door, barefoot, hair loosely tied, wearing something simple, comfortable, but elegant in its effortlessness. She moves around the kitchen with quiet focus, sleeves rolled to her elbows, laughing easily as she stirs something on the stove. He tries to act normal. He tells himself this is just another family night. But the moment their eyes meet, that steady calm she usually carries falters for half a second, and he knows she's just as aware of it as he is. Dinner goes smoothly enough. There's laughter, conversation, gentle teasing. But beneath it all is a rhythm only the two of them can hear. A quiet hum of awareness that won't fade. She barely looks at him, but every time she does, it feels deliberate, measured, cautious. Later, when rain begins tapping softly against the windows, his girlfriend steps outside to take a work call. He offers to help clear the table. The sister shakes her head but smiles faintly. "If you really want to help, you can dry the dishes." The house grows quiet. He stands beside her in the kitchen, the sound of running water filling the silence between them. He passes her a plate. She takes it without looking. Their shoulders almost touch. The closeness feels heavier than it should. After a few moments, she speaks, her tone steady, but low. "You shouldn't look at me the way you do." He freezes, unsure how to answer. When he finally meets her eyes, she's already watching him. Not angry, not amused, just tired of pretending. He exhales, his voice quiet. "I don't mean to." "I know," she says. "But you do." The rain outside grows louder, a steady rhythm that fills the pauses between them. She places the towel down, her hands trembling just enough to betray what she's holding back. Then, with a small, rueful smile, she says the words that stay with him for weeks. "If you keep looking at me like that, I'll tell her everything." The sentence isn't a threat. It's a plea. A warning not to make her the villain in a story she never wanted to begin. He says nothing. There's nothing he can say. The silence between them is louder than the rain, heavier than guilt. She turns away, gathering the plates, trying to reclaim her composure. But he catches the smallest crack in her voice when she finally says, "You should go check on her." He nods. As he leaves the kitchen, he glances back once. She's standing by the sink, her back to him, shoulders slightly hunched. A woman holding her breath so no one sees what she's feeling. After that night in the kitchen, everything changes, quietly, but completely. They don't speak about it. They don't need to. The air between them has learned to hold a secret neither of them wanted to name. He avoids seeing her for a while. Whenever his girlfriend mentions her sister, he finds excuses. Work, tired, next time. It's easier that way. Easier to keep the guilt at arm's length. But distance doesn't dull it. It sharpens it. Because the mind doesn't let go of what it never understood. He catches himself thinking of her at random moments, when he smells rain on concrete, when he hears a low laugh that sounds a bit too familiar. There's a rhythm to her that his days now feel missing without. When they finally see each other again, it's at another family event. A birthday, a small one, too crowded to avoid. He feels her presence before he even sees her. And when their eyes meet across the room, it's brief, restrained, but enough to make his pulse stutter. She looks the same, but something about her seems quieter, guarded. She talks to everyone but him, moving through conversations with effortless composure. Still, he can sense the small hesitations, the slight pause when she passes near him, the way her fingers tighten around her glass when their laughter overlaps. Later, when he's standing near the hallway, she walks by, close enough that her perfume brushes the edge of his breath. She doesn't stop, doesn't look at him, but her hand grazes his arm, light as a whisper, fleeting, but intentional. "Excuse me," she says softly, as though the words were meant to cover the contact. But he hears the apology beneath them, for the silence, for the restraint, for everything they can't undo. He watches her walk away, and in that moment, realizes something he doesn't want to admit. It isn't desire that hurts the most. It's respect. Because part of him wishes she'd make it easier, that she'd falter, that she'd slip. But she doesn't. She holds the line, for all of them. That night, he sits in his car before starting the engine. His girlfriend is already inside, texting her friends. He looks at her reflection in the window, then at his own, and wonders when the guilt stopped feeling like guilt and started feeling like loss. Days turn into weeks. They don't text, don't speak directly. But every so often, a message meant for his girlfriend feels like it's speaking to him too. Small phrases like, "Tell him I hope he's doing well," or, "I heard he's been busy." Polite, distant, yet filled with quiet intent. In narration, he can't reply, but he reads between the lines anyway. "I thought avoiding her would make it fade, but all it did was teach me that silence has its own kind of closeness." And as he stares out at the night, city lights reflecting off wet pavement, he realizes that denial isn't distance. It's another way of staying near. It happens unexpectedly, like most moments that matter. His girlfriend had asked him to help her sister prepare a surprise for their mother's birthday. Nothing complicated. Setting up decorations, picking up a cake, handling the little details. She was supposed to join later. But then she calls apologetic. A work emergency. She'll be late. And suddenly, he's alone in the sister's house again. The afternoon light is soft, golden, spilling through the wide windows in gentle beams. The air smells faintly of fresh lilies and coffee. The silence feels thick, like something waiting to be spoken. She's in the living room, kneeling beside a box of framed photos. When she sees him standing awkwardly at the doorway, she smiles politely. "You didn't have to come early," she says. He shrugs, trying to sound casual. "Didn't want you to handle everything alone." It's a simple exchange, but it carries too much weight. They both know it's been months since they've been in the same room like this. Unguarded, unchaperoned, unprepared. For a while, they work side by side, setting up candles, untangling ribbons, moving furniture. Their movements are quiet, careful, choreographed by avoidance. Yet every now and then, they brush too close. A shared glance, a faint breath, the subtle electricity of proximity. When she reaches for a decoration on a high shelf, he instinctively steadies her, a hand at her waist, light as a thought. She freezes, her breath catching for just a second. He steps back immediately, whispering, "Sorry." Her voice is calm, but softer than usual. "You're always sorry." That line hits deeper than he expects. Because she's right. He's been apologizing for things he never does, for feelings he never acts on, for silence that only grows heavier. They sit down for a moment, surrounded by half-finished decorations. The sunlight has turned warmer, casting quiet gold across her face. She looks tired, not physically but emotionally, like someone who's been carrying too much restraint for too long. He breaks the silence. "I didn't mean for any of this." "I know," she says, looking down. "Neither did I." There's a pause, not uncomfortable but thick with understanding. She continues, voice barely above a whisper. "I tried to dislike you. It would have made this easier." He exhales, his throat tight. "Did it work?" She gives a small, broken laugh. "No." For a few seconds, the world seems to stop. No music, no cars outside. Just two people sitting too close in the wrong moment with the right understanding. He finally says, "Then what do we do?" She meets his gaze. Eyes steady, filled with something that could be love or sorrow or both. "Whatever this is," she says quietly, "we can't let it ruin her." He nods. It's the only answer that makes sense, even though it hurts to give it. It's his birthday. He doesn't expect much. Just a small dinner arranged by his girlfriend, her family, a few friends. Ordinary. Safe. But as the evening unfolds, he feels that quiet, familiar weight returning. The one he thought he had learned to live without. The dinner is warm and easy. Candles flicker across the table. Laughter rises. Wine glasses clink. He tries to stay present, tries to be the man he's supposed to be. Polite, attentive, grounded. But across the table, she's there again. Her presence doesn't overwhelm him like before. The softer now, quieter, steadier. She wears a dark green dress, her hair loose over her shoulders. Her expression is calm, but her eyes carry something he's seen only once before. The night she warned him. They speak little through dinner. She asks about his work, smiles politely at his answers, listens when others talk. There's nothing between them now but civility. Yet somehow, that restraint feels even more intimate than their silence ever did. Later, when everyone begins clearing up, she walks over and hands him a small envelope. "Just something simple," she says. "Don't open it here." He thanks her quietly and tucks it into his jacket pocket. Her fingers linger just long enough for him to feel it. That old current, still alive, still dangerous. The rest of the night passes in polite normalcy. He helps clean, chats with her parents, watches his girlfriend laugh. But his thoughts keep circling back to the envelope in his pocket. Small, light, impossible to ignore. When he finally leaves, he waits until he's alone in his car before opening it. Inside is a folded card, plain white, her handwriting small and deliberate. There's no long message, no explanation, just a single line. "You're braver than you know." He reads it again and again, unsure what kind of courage she means, the kind to stay or the kind to walk away. The moonlight through the windshield catches the ink slightly, and he imagines her writing it. Pausing, thinking, deciding what truth she could give him without crossing the line they both built and guarded. He tucks the card back carefully, almost reverently, because in those 5 words, she said everything she couldn't out loud. Days later, when he sees her again at another gathering, nothing is said about it. But when their eyes meet, something passes between them. Not longing anymore, not guilt. Something quieter. Acceptance, maybe, or goodbye. She smiles softly, like someone who has finally made peace with what will never be spoken. Weeks pass. Life settles back into its usual rhythm. Work, routines, calls with his girlfriend, dinners with friends. On the surface, nothing has changed. But beneath the ordinary hum of his days, something inside him has quieted. Not from forgetting, but from understanding. She had once filled his thoughts like an ache, a question without an answer. Now, she's more like a memory he carries gently. Not to relive, but to respect. One Sunday afternoon, he's at their family home again. His girlfriend has gone out for a walk with her mother, and he ends up helping her sister clean up the garden patio. A familiar, domestic space, filled with the hum of cicadas and the smell of late summer. They work in silence for a while. The air between them is different now, lighter, less charged, though not empty. She looks calm, composed, as if she's made peace with everything that needed forgiving. When she finally speaks, her voice is warm, low, and steady. "I'm glad she has you," she says, almost as if she's saying it to herself. He looks at her, not sure how to respond. Her face is turned toward the fading sunlight, and the golden glow softens the fine lines around her eyes. She's beautiful in that effortless, grounded way that once terrified him. Not because of attraction, but because of the truth it forced him to face. That love can take shapes you're not meant to keep. He sets down the broom and says quietly, "You've always looked out for her. For everyone, really?" She smiles faintly. "Including you." He lets out a quiet laugh, the kind that's half gratitude, half disbelief. "Even when I didn't deserve it?" Her eyes meet his, and for a moment, time folds. Every charged silence, every near confession, every lingering look returning for one brief heartbeat. "Especially then," she says. The wind moves through the trees, and for a long while, neither of them speaks. The silence isn't heavy anymore. It's gentle. Feels like closure, like something finally being set down. When his girlfriend returns, they greet her with easy smiles. The tension that once filled every gesture is gone. Later, as he and his girlfriend prepare to leave, her sister stands by the door, watching them with that same serene expression. As he turns to say goodbye, she steps closer and straightens his collar, the way someone older might fix a small detail before sending you off into the world. Her hand lingers for a second, soft, maternal, but carrying the memory of something deeper. "Take care of her," she says. "I will," he answers. And that's it. No more glances, no more hidden meaning. Just two people who once saw too much in each other, now choosing peace instead of possibility. Not every story ends in love. Some end in understanding. And sometimes that's enough.